Today we take you to the ruins of a site which most today do not know was the very place at which the long history of Ireland's conflicts with England began. This ancient fortress is key to a story of unbridled ambition and its ultimate price for a people. Abandoned Places, a castle's tragic history of the invasion of Ireland. Built in the early 800s as a hill fort on top of a 150-foot-tall rocky promontory of cliffs in County Laois, it was known as the Dun of Maze. Shortly afterwards, it was the site of a battle with the Vikings in 842 and was burned and pillaged and then attacked again in 845 with the Abbot of Terryglass killed. Afterward, it laid abandoned until around the year 1000, when it may have been rebuilt. Dunamase was to truly enter history due to Dermot MacMurrough, who was King of Leinster. Dermot was known as a larger-than-life, vicious, and widely hated man, whose voice often grew hoarse from shouting in battle. As a child, he saw his father killed by the Dublin Vikings and buried with a dog under their great hall, where they would walk upon his body daily as an insult. After his rise to power, he was known for often blinding and castrating his enemies. In 1132, he had Kildare plundered, and the Abbess of Kildare, who was a member of a rival clan, raped to remove her from her position of power. In 1152, he kidnapped, or possibly by her own will, took the wife of his rival King O'Rourke of Breffni, who had previously deposed him, and held her at Dunamase, which enraged his enemy. After her release, in 1166, this led Rory O'Connor, the High King of Ireland, to drive him from Dunamase and force him from the throne of Leinster into exile. Dermot traveled to France and met King Henry II of England, where he submitted to his rule and asked for his help. Henry was not interested in direct involvement, but allowed him to seek the help of Norman knights led by Richard de Clare, 2nd Earl of Pembroke, also known as Strongbow. What Dermot did not know was that Henry had summoned a council in 1155 with his bishops on how to invade Ireland, as Pope Adrian IV had given them official permission to do so, writing, "You may enter that island and do there what has to do with the honor of God and the salvation of the land, and may the people of that land receive you with honor and revere you as their Lord." Pope Adrian had been convinced by rumors fanned by Irish church reformers like Saint Malachy of Armagh, whose words claiming that sexual vices were rife in Ireland were published throughout Europe by Saint Bernard. Dermot was to make a deal with Strongbow, who would marry his daughter Aoife, giving him inheritance rights on Leinster's throne, and also be given Dunamase. In exchange, Dermot would get his help regaining the throne of Leinster. Dermot returned in 1167 and was defeated, but after Strongbow set out with other Norman knights in 1169, he had success, capturing the old Viking towns of Waterford, Wexford, and Dublin, and regaining his throne. However, Dermot died shortly after this in 1171, and later that year Henry II invaded Ireland himself, as much to control Strongbow as the Irish. He landed at Waterford, and the Norman knights gave their lands to him, with Strongbow given Leinster. The lesser Irish kings quickly surrendered, leaving High King Rory O'Connor to watch helplessly as colonists settled in many coastal areas and raids burned many towns. After Henry's victory, the Treaty of Windsor was signed in 1175 between Rory O'Connor, High King of Ireland, and Henry. Rory O'Connor was left with the lands outside of Dublin, Waterford, Wexford, and the Kingdom of Leinster, and was to pay tributes of cowhides yearly. He was also forced to follow the Synod of Cashel, a meeting called by Henry II with the Irish bishops, who signed off on reforms of Pope Alexander III, who had written to them to obey Henry. Alexander also wrote to Henry, "With much joy we have been assured that, like a pious king and magnificent prince, you have wonderfully and gloriously triumphed over that people of Ireland, who, ignoring the fear of God, in unbridled fashion, wander at random through the depths of vice, and have renounced all reverence for the Christian faith and virtue. You have extended the power of your majesty over a race uncivilized and indisciplined." In this way, the Irish Church was put under the control of the English Church. The agreement also granted English kings inheritance of the Kingdom of Ireland. The Treaty of Windsor was not to last. Norman nobles continued raiding and settling colonists, and by 1183, Rory abdicated after long conflicts that involved blinding his own son, who had sided with the Normans. He died in 1198 at the Abbey of Cong. It was around this time that a stone keep was built at Dunamase, surrounded by a stone curtain wall, ditch, and barbican gateway built by William Marshall the Elder in 1208, who had inherited the lands from Strongbow. William was a powerful lord and served 5 kings, was known as the greatest knight that ever lived, and was regent for King Henry III. Despite him having 5 sons, they all died heirless by 1247, leaving the castle to Eva Marshall, widow of William de Braose, who had been hung by Prince Llewellyn the Great after sleeping with his wife while his prisoner. Her daughter married Roger Mortimer, who then inherited the castle. Roger had become famous for killing Simon de Montfort in battle after de Montfort had overthrown Henry III. Strangely, in 1330, Roger Mortimer, grandson of the first heroic Roger, was seized and executed for treason by Edward III for the deposal and murder of Edward II. In 1329, the O'More clan captured Dunamase and used it as their principal stronghold until in 1609, the O'More clan was forced, due to a treaty with the English, to be transplanted to Kerry, far to the south, and the castle was abandoned. During the Irish Confederate Wars, Dunamase was partly destroyed by Cromwell after a siege in 1650 to prevent its reuse by anyone. In the 1700s, Sir John Parnell, a member of Parliament and great-grandfather of Irish nationalist Charles Stewart Parnell, did work on the site to create a medieval banquet hall, adding parts of other local buildings. It was never finished. And here the ruins stand today, alone on its hill. Let's take a look inside. The first thing apparent is the barbican, which would have housed a drawbridge used to cross over the still existing ditch. Further up the hill is the main gatehouse, which held the second layer of walls. Defensive arrow slits and guard chambers are to either side, allowing defenders to fire on those passing the gate. The old gatehouse windows have some amazing views. Up at the hilltop looms the main keep and hall. To the side of the keep is a mysterious pit, possibly from rock quarrying or the source of water. The keep has an ornate archway, likely added later by Parnell. Today the ruin stands, barely visited in comparison to famous sites like the Rock of Cashel or Blarney Castle. Perhaps its tragic story of kidnapping, executions, the fall of the old Gaelic order, and the bloody years of Cromwell stain it today with memories many would like to forget. Inside the keep, various stairs lead to nowhere high above, and thick walls attest to the defensive ability of the main castle. When staring out this window on the countryside below, it's easy to hear the words of poet William O'Neill. But vain I wait and listen, for Rory Oge is dead, and in the halls of Dunamase a Saxon rules instead. And o'er his fruitful acres the stranger now is lord, where since the days of Cuhor a proud O'More kept ward. In the end, it's hard to say whether it was the ambitions of Dermot MacMurrough and the Norman lords, the rumors spread by St. Bernard and Malachy, or even Pope Adrian and Alexander's misled belief in them that triggered centuries of English rule. One thing is clear, though, that Dunamase today is still a place deeply steeped in tragedy. In a strange last chapter of the sad tale of Dunamase, shortly after we filmed this, in June 2019, a Mr. Delaney was suspected to have been tortured and buried on or below its cliffs. While 2 suspects were detained, the body still has not been found after large-scale search efforts in November, and no charges have been made to date. Join us next time as we explore an abandoned mental asylum ward with Discover with Pajerico. Thank you for watching. For more unique abandoned places and their lost stories, follow us today by subscribing and hitting the bell icon. If you are subscribed, please take a moment to unsubscribe and resubscribe, as we understand many of you are not getting notifications for our videos. Until next time.